I'm back.
Did you almost die?
Yeah, 100%.
You don't know if you'd work with him again.
He kept saying things like, are you getting headaches, are you getting cramps? And I wasn't getting headaches and I wasn't getting cramps. So I was angry and I was looking for somebody to blame, really. Because I put a whole year into Tampa Pro. I was like obsessed.
What's up, Desktopers? Xavier Wills here for Desktop Bodybuilding, and we are back with another video. And in this video today, I'm interviewing Luke Sandoe, the third place finisher at the 2019 Arnold Classic, and we go into a whole bunch of topics. And this is part one of part two of my interview with him. And we go into how he got into bodybuilding, his upbringing, and we also go into an incident that happened in 2018 where he almost and really should have actually died. We go into all that plus more in this video. And if you guys like this content and like these interviews that are going up lately, give me a thumbs up and smash that like button. Also subscribe and hit the notification bell button. Anyway, guys, enjoy this video and make sure you do subscribe so you don't miss out on part two. Welcome back to Desktop Bodybuilding. Today I'm joined by one of UK's, if not UK's, #1 pro bodybuilder, Luke Sandoe. Mate, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. How you doing? You can say mate here and it's not confusing for people.
Yeah, I know. I felt like I could say that to you and not, when I say it to an American, it comes across as like, oh, hey, bro.
I find it more strange when American or Canadian people say mate to me.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's awkward.
I'm like, he just throws me off. I just want to kind of call him a jerk.
Does anyone say good day over there?
No, only if we. The only time anyone says good day is if the word Australia pops up, and then automatically somebody will just go good day, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a massive. And for some reason, Americans always say good day, mate. They just go real slow, so it just doesn't work like that.
I say it when I've been to Australia. I say it as much as possible.
Yeah, just get it out of your system.
I'm like there with like a machine gun of good days.
All right, well, let's get into this anyway, man, because I want to go deep into how you got into the whole sport. Now, I've heard that, certain stories about you coming up and transitioning from being a drummer and being in a band to being, a bodybuilder, essentially, but I haven't heard the stuff leading up to it, the things in between it. So let's get into, we'll ask you about, obviously, what you're doing right now in terms of training and all that sort of stuff a little bit after, but how did you,
what do you want to talk about?
With growing up, what, I suppose, inspired you and what was your childhood like growing up and then getting into, obviously, drumming?
I had a pretty quiet childhood. I grew up literally in the forest, probably 40 minutes away from most of my friends. But I loved it. I had friends in the kind of village where I grew up, but I was quite secluded. I had a very outdoor upbringing. I was always out in the woods, always doing stuff outside. We also lived really close to the beach as well, so I grew up on the beach. So I mean, it was quite a very just understated growing up. Really, it's like nothing was competitive. I wasn't really privy to anything. I never lived in a town. It was very quiet. So from there, we moved slightly closer to the kind of town where I grew up, which at that point I met a lot of kids in the area who were massively into skateboarding, and that was just my thing for about 5 years of skateboarding.
So what age was that?
That was probably maybe 11 to 16, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So after skateboarding, how did that then lead into, I suppose, drumming and then bodybuilding?
Well, I guess the thing with the skateboarding, I mean, during that point when it was popular, the kids were into it. We were all a bit nerdy as well, so we liked comic books. I love comic books anyway. So we had that. So when you're into comic books, you see a lot of muscle. You see a lot of these massive guys, especially like Hulk, things like that. And I was always gravitated to that, and always the characters I was most interested in always happened to be the biggest and the strongest guys. And also when you're in the skateboarding scene, I don't even call it a scene. There's only about 6 of us.
He's on the scene.
The type of music I listened to was a lot of pop punk, at the time, and I loved Blink-182. Travis Barker is the man, and I basically just became obsessed with drums from then. And it kind of all intertwined at the same time. So in terms of bodybuilding, I mean, in my head, I just always was fascinated by strength and muscle. So that's where the seed was was sown, I guess.
Yep. And when did you, I suppose, see your first top pro bodybuilder and go, wow, look at that dude. Because I've got my own experience where I see certain amateurs and I was like, I want to look like that guy. I want to look like that guy. And looking back, they weren't that impressive. But then I sort of realised.
In 2011, which is when I decided I was going to start bodybuilding, there was a pro show in England. Had a little expo attached to it. And I'd been bodybuilding for a few months. And I saw I can't remember who it was. Actually. I know I saw a pro in person in a tank top. And I was blown away by it, but exactly at the same time thinking, I can do that. That's attainable. I think
Really?
in my head, I was like, I can do that. And I was walking around with my son's mother at the time. She was massively pregnant as well. And we sat down, we watched we didn't want to walk around the expo too much because obviously Leo was about to come out. So we actually just watched mostly the 212 prejudging and the open class prejudging. Branch Warren won the open and it was 202 at the time, and Flex Lewis won the 202. And when I was watching that, when I was watching the show, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And I think that was my first real introduction to bodybuilding and made me decide this is what I want to do.
It's funny, man, because that's actually a time where I was following bodybuilding and, you know, I've been training for quite a while, obviously not to a very high level like you, but it's funny that I was following bodybuilding then and then competing myself, and that's when you just got into it, and it makes me feel sort of like, well, like you've moved up pretty quick.
I've come up really quickly. Thinking about it, it's been phenomenally quickly, and that I think that's why, in a way, it blows my mind how I just mentioned the winners of those two shows, of the 202 and the Open. Like, I know both of those guys, mostly more so Flex on personal levels. Like, I have both of their numbers now, and just that, looking back, and that was only 9 years ago.
Yeah, it's not long.
It's fucking crazy actually thinking about it. You're making me reminisce. Now my mind's just blowing inside. That's crazy. Yeah, but yeah, thinking back at all that, it's been crazy.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously that quick emergence onto the scene. When did you first compete, and then when did you first, I suppose, when did you turn pro?
So from that point, that's when I was like, I'm doing a show next year. So I'd been training a few months with bodybuilding, and I chose my first show, which was in April or May in 2012. Yeah. Which was the UK BFF, which is like was our version of the NPC here. Did the South Coast. I actually competed as a junior because I was still 23 at the time, and I won that. I nearly won the overall. I had amazing, phenomenal feedback. I mean, I was really, really not in shape, but I was very big, and my structure and the shape was there. I was probably the biggest in the show, and I'd only been training about a year, properly for bodybuilding, and I kind of reaffirmed it in my head that I was like, okay, there is something to this, and I was like, but I'm now going to be doing the British now, so I've qualified for the nationals essentially, and because I turned 24 in August, and the show was in October or September. It was October actually. I had to do a men's class, so I was like, I've got to take it up a notch. I have to. So I hired a coach, and that was Nathan Harmon at the time. He's a great guy, great coach. He's had a lot of success. He's prepped Willie Winkler, and he's always helped Sean Tavernier. So he helped me for the British, and obviously doing a men's class, I was like, I have to be in shape. And I don't know how to get in shape because I'm so new to this. I just know I have to do cardio. I'm not very good with the specifics, and I'd rather somebody take the reins and just get me in shape. He got me in shape, and I ended up getting second. So, again, in my head, I was like, okay, so I've gone from a junior to an adult, a junior to a men's class, and now I'm second in the country in this weight class. After just about 18 months of bodybuilding, I should probably stick with this, and I love it. And then I turned pro in 2016.
Wow, that's incredible. That's such a quick rise. And what was that first contest you did, which was the Arnold Classic, I believe, in Columbus?
Yeah, it was. That was an accident. Looking back, I'm really glad I did it, but I shouldn't have done it, really.
Yeah. So
I turned pro in October. Yeah, it was October. So won the overall, the British title, won the supers in the overall. And then my girlfriend and I, we went away for about 2 weeks, all-inclusive holiday. Just so many pastries, man. Just a lot of ice cream. Just didn't stop. Got back, blob mode. Wasn't going to. I didn't train for another few weeks. I was just enjoying life because I'd put a whole year into turning pro. I was obsessed. Got really fat, and then Ed Connors was looking for my Instagram, and he messaged me. I'm sure a lot of viewers are familiar with Ed Connors. If you're not, just research. He said, "Oh, you should do the Arnold Classic. You have exactly what they should have there." And I was like, yeah. Didn't believe a word this guy was saying. And then he was like, I'll put a recommendation in there for you. Would you consider doing it if you got an invite? And I was like, yeah. Of course, it's the Arnold. Not really taking it seriously. Then I got an email saying, would you be willing to do the Arnold? And I was like, fuck. And I was like, yeah, I have to do this. Called up my coach, who was Justin Harris. And I was like, mate, I'm so out of shape. The Arnold's in like 14 weeks. And I'd just come off a whole year of just hard going for my pro card. So I hadn't had any rest, and I was really out of shape. My body was not responsive, and I was out of shape. And I jumped into a contest prep. Looked like shit, but the experience was phenomenal. And I think that kind of gave me a platform to kind of, because I was seen by so many people. And from that point, people just, I think it kind of accidentally gave me a name. And then I had to prove that I was worthy of being on that stage, if that makes sense.
For sure. And when I saw you compete there, that was the first time I'd seen you. I hadn't seen you when you turned pro. I saw you when you showed up at the Arnold's, and I thought, okay, he's one of these guys that got an invite because he's from another country. Okay, he might just be filling in the gaps sort of thing, and maybe he's a guy that typically places 10th or 5th to 10th at smaller shows. And then the next year you came in, that was 2018, and you did a bunch of shows, and you improved, obviously. But you still hadn't obviously realised your potential in terms of conditioning and things like that, I believe. And then, I was sort of thinking, okay, this is going to be one of these guys that maybe comes in out of condition a few times, that sort of, you see the potential there, and you're like, just a little bit more. But you obviously realised that in 2019, which we'll get onto. But 2018 at the California Pro, you had what was a pretty scary experience. And I pretty much just want to ask you, did you almost die?
Yeah, 100%. Like 100%. I was pulled into intensive care, and the consultant just looked at me and was like, I don't know how you're still alive. And I just kind of started laughing, and he, like, more out of shock, and he was just like, this isn't funny. And I was like, fuck. He didn't understand how I didn't die.
Wow.
Because my potassium had got so high. I'm looking back at this, it was so much me just going, I'm fine, and I wasn't fine.
Yeah. I
even went back to the hotel room and tried to sleep it off. I was there for 6 hours on my own. I should have gone to hospital then, but because I'm so stubborn, I was like, I'm fine. Potassium levels in my blood just kept building, and the doctor said your heart just should have stopped. I don't understand.
So what does that feel like when your potassium levels are that high? Can you give us an example of what that might feel like? Is it like going hypoglycemic or something? Or
no, it's like it's really. I just felt like I had zero energy. My whole body was just not really. It was sluggish and like tight. Like my whole body was too tight, and I just felt like I was going to die. It's hard to explain. It was just shit. And like I couldn't. Like if a T-Rex walked in. Don't know why I said T-Rex, but if a T-Rex walked in, I wouldn't be able to run away. I'd probably survive, actually, because I'd just be still.
The
point is, I wouldn't be able to move. Even no matter how terrified I was or anything, I couldn't have moved.
Well, that's pretty scary. And you were working with Chris Aceto at the time as well. And I actually remember after that, you stopped working with Chris, I think so. You went on a podcast, and I did hear you say you don't know if you'd work with him again or something along those lines, and that was straight after. I didn't stop work. Well, I did stop working with him because I just stopped everything for a while. But a lot of it was just I was angry and I was looking for somebody to blame. Really. Yep.
I never did blame Chris, but I always thought, well, he should have known. He should have known better. And then looking back, me saying I'm fine. Honestly, I'm fine. If I kept telling him that, he's going to think I'm fine.
Yeah.
You know. And I'm dying, and Ben can see that I'm really not well, but Chris doesn't quite know that.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to take responsibility for certain things. I know when I lose something around the house, I'm like, which one of the kids put it somewhere? And half the time I'll just put it somewhere, So.
But he kept saying things like, "Are you getting headaches? Are you getting cramps?" And I wasn't getting headaches, and I wasn't getting cramps. Weirdly, so he. I mean, it was, and I did honestly have a stomach bug, like a food. I ate something bad because I started vomiting about 2 days before this happened. Yeah, I started getting sick. We were actually in is it fire station near God's? Firehouse?
Firehouse, yeah.
Firehouse. I was having a bob bowl, and I was just halfway through it, and I just was like, I'm going to be sick. And I was just sick, and from that point on, I started going downhill. Yeah,
that's scary too. I feel like when you're vomiting, you feel like, I could die here, when you don't know what's actually going on with your body. So
so because I was vomiting, and I couldn't put the fluid, I couldn't put fluid in. I couldn't hydrate. If I could put fluid in, my body probably would have started balancing itself out, and it would have started passing the potassium out.
Yeah.
This is what the doctor was telling me. But because I was being sick, not only is that making me more dehydrated, it was it was allowing my potassium to go up, but it was also stopping me from getting hydrated from obviously the water. And because I couldn't hydrate at all, where the potassium was building up, it was making me go hypoglycemic, which was making me throw up even.
Okay, yeah, so that's not good.
So it was a vicious cycle, yeah. So the more I threw up, the more it made me throw up because I was getting so dehydrated and hyperglycemic. Hyperkalemic, sorry. Hyperkalemic, and it was horrendous.
Yeah,
but
that's
that didn't
scary.
start happening until the day of the show, because the day before the show I was actually okay and I was eating and drinking again. But I didn't feel great. But yeah, it was an absolute shit show, and I should have pulled out before, but I was being really stubborn because I thought you're supposed to feel like shit on the day of a show. And yeah, it was complete stupidity on my part.
Yeah, and then going into 2019, obviously you started working with Chris. At some point after that, it wasn't obviously that crazy long of a distance between, you know, the California Pro and the Arnold Classic in 2019. So when did you start working with Chris again? And
Chris and I actually did keep in contact because he is just a good person anyway.
Yeah.
And we get along really well. So we actually just used to message each other about other things. And then one day I was just like, I know everything that happened with us, and we knew everything. And I said, would you consider going at it again? Because after a lot of thought, I don't think I would want to work with anyone else, and I didn't. I was trying to think who would I want to work with, and I didn't want to work with anyone else. And he was like, of course, because Chris is great, and we just went from there.
Yeah, and was that around the start of your prep for the Arnold Classic 2019?
It was right at the end of the off season, yeah. When I started saying I want to have another crack at the Arnold, and I wanted to redeem myself in a big way. That's why I chose the Arnold, because I thought it's a good business decision in terms of being well known and getting a lot of views. And if I do achieve what I want to achieve, I will make a very big. I'm back. So we started working together again, and because obviously what we'd learned, I knew my communication had to be better.
Yep.
I had to tell him if I wasn't happy, I'd have to tell him. If I wasn't feeling good, I had to tell him. He's not going to just know from looking at fucking pictures.
Yeah.
So I kind of made the decision that I had to carry my side as well. I had to carry the load my end a bit more. And it was great. And exactly what we did. Now the communication has been perfect, and everything's been great since then.
Yeah, and it seems like obviously the communication is pretty high, because it seems like he gets all his clients to send photos daily from a certain point in the prep, or I don't know, maybe it's a whole prep, but it's pretty insane.
With me, it's pretty much the whole prep daily.
Wow, that's crazy, because I have trouble sometimes getting photos from clients weekly, and they'll be in the wrong spot and no lighting.
People always say taking pictures is really difficult. All you need to do is get yourself one of these. It's a little tripod here. Put your phone on it, video yourself posing, and when you get to your video, you pause the video, and then you just move it along with your finger to the poses, screenshot, move it along to the pose, screenshot, and there your pictures. You don't need any help. You can do it on your own wherever you are.
Smart, man. It's just funny how people just seem to struggle. I don't have anyone to take the pictures. I'm like, put it up against something instead of time.
I've actually got a generic email written out with a diagram with pictures on it of how to do it. That when I send that with all when I used to work with clients, I only started doing it with the last handful because I was sick of people asking and also giving it the excuse. I just send that with their pack when they start with all their program. I send them that as well.
Yeah. You really have to lay things out for people sometimes. I know, I've said certain things in plans and it's been misconstrued. I'm like, no.
Yeah. But in all fairness, it's one of those things that are so obvious you wouldn't think of it.
Yeah,
and
for
sure. When you think of it, you're like, everyone I've talked to, that everyone's just like, oh yeah. It's so fucking obvious.
Yeah.
It's a good little trick. So yeah.
Now, I don't know how we even got onto that, but let's go back to 2019 and that Arnold Classic. Now, coming into that, did you think you had the chance to be top 3 and really make a name for yourself? Because coming out of that Arnold, you were really the talk of it, because you weren't being predicted top 3 by many people at all. I had you, I think, maybe 6 or so.
I wasn't even being predicted top 6 by anyone, really.
Wow.
I said, when I started, I said, Chris, can I be top 6? And Chris was like, you can be top 3. And I was like, well, let's do it then. And the whole time publicly, I was saying, I'm aiming for the top 6. I'm aiming for the top 6. In my head, I was like, I want to be third. Third's my goal. And that's what I visualized. And I was like, let's just do it. And Chris saw me 6 weeks out because he came to the UK for a tour with Sean Roden. And they both came to the gym. And they both looked at me. And Sean just tapped me on the shoulder and he says, third.
Really?
Yeah. And Chris was like, yep, third. And that was it. But the game plan was for third from then on, pretty much. And
That's
then
amazing.
when we got to the show, and I started like drying out. We didn't really do much. My body just started going again. It was almost like my body knew it had to be ready for that exact moment.
Yeah.
And just started getting itself ready. And it was such a nice final week because everything just happened perfectly. Nothing was forced. The setup was really nice. And then Chris was like, you're either going to be first, third, or sixth, depending how they judge this, depending on who he thought was going to win. He had all these different scenarios, and I got third, and it still blows my mind.
Yeah, and you got third, obviously, to two really good competitors, Brandon Curry and William Bonac, who went to get first and second in the Olympia as well. And then, obviously, Bonac's gone on to win the Arnold Classic this year. Yeah. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. It was, and that just kind of goes to show where my body is. It's like if my body's nice and fresh at the start, and it's like, and I'm responsive, I can produce a very good package, so to speak. But if I'm tired, no, it just won't happen.
Yeah, and it's funny, the way I've actually heard you speak about that on other podcasts, I relate to that so much because, I competed on a real short prep last year, and I'm doing men's physique, which is, I know, your favourite class, but I came into that and I did a short prep and went from looking like crap at the start of it, and people were like, I'd put up before and afters, and people were like, Photoshop and blah, blah, like, and all this sort of stuff. I was like, no, I actually did it, and my body responded amazing. I dropped fat really quick, put on muscle easy, and then I went to prep, when was it? Well, I was going to prep a little bit after that, and my body, I was like cutting down. I'm like, I'm eating less calories than before, and I'm not losing as quick, and I'm not responding, and my body just looked tired, and it's sort of something that's hard to explain.
I hate saying it because it sounds like a fucking excuse.
It sounds weak.
And it's not. It's like the more tired I get, the more effort I have to put in. For that Arnold prep was a piece of piss. Like, it wasn't even remotely difficult. I was having cookies every day, bagels for breakfast, like 30 minutes of cardio. It was easy because my body was responding. And then you look at and then I did the Australia and Indy. Australia was completely my fault, kind of, because I flew in a day later because I forgot about the time difference.
Yeah.
And I was so dry. I faded so quickly, and it just didn't go well. I looked okay, and then Indy. That was again after two or 3 weeks of constant traveling. I'd gone from UK to the States to UK to Australia back to the UK, and then UK back to the United States, all within 2 weeks. So I'm not saying, and I drank the water, I did every meal on time, on track, slept when I was supposed to, but my body just didn't do it because I think there is an element of the travel and the stress on things, and you have to kind of let your body kind of get used to, or flatten off, or level off, or whatever. But that's something I learned, is that doing things when forcing it and traveling a lot doesn't agree with me.
Yep. No, I totally agree. I'm the exact same way as that, man. But let's move on through that year. Obviously, then you went on after that to compete in Tampa. You competed and pretty much went head-to-head with Dexter Jackson, who's won more pro comps than anyone in the history of the IFBB Pro League.
And I felt, and Tampa was, again, pretty easy, because after Australia, I had a couple of weeks off and I rested, went back into Tampa. And because things were, I didn't even know I was going to do Tampa. We were just focused on the Olympia because of the points. And then I realized I'm probably going to have to do Tampa now. And because my body was responding so well, we jumped into Tampa. And it worked. And we did try things different for that final week because we wanted it. Because we knew we were going out for Dexter, like dryness was the goal. I wasn't happy with how I looked, but I still looked good. And that's, again, because my body was responsive and it wasn't so just tired.
What do you, like, ranking your packages from last year? We'll talk about the Olympia a little bit after.
Yeah,
sure. How would you rank them from, Indy to the Arnold to Tampa to the Olympia? Give us a ranking of each one, I suppose, best to worst.
I think the best I've looked all year was when I first walked out at Australia.
Really?
When I very first walked out.
Yeah.
When because a couple of the judges afterwards, they said when you first walked out, we were like, he's won. But just that very first, like when I went, and then when I came back out for the comparisons, I just faded. I think it was again because it was definitely a water issue. I was quite full, but not super full. But I was very dry, and I think I started sweating, and I just went really soft and flat very quickly. And I remember they worked us really hard. I think I had 3 call-outs in a row, and we were worked really hard. And I remember like Cedric and Ruli were very soft, and Josh was quite soft when they came out. And they got much better because we were being worked hard. So they actually got harder and harder. Because I was very dry when I came out straight away, I just got softer and flatter.
Yeah.
So I think that first when you do your first minute individual routine.
Yep.
In Australia, that was my best. Then the Arnold at the night show, and then Tampa, Indy, and then obviously the Olympia last. Dead fucking last.
So obviously not a package you're happy with, but I've got to say as well, with the packages you brought last year, all of them were a little bit different, but I feel like there's such a fine line with your physique. It's either you're like the Arnold and you're like mind-blowing, you look incredible, and then if you're slightly off, I look at the photos, I'm like, well, you don't look that much different, it's just a tiny bit, but you get absolutely shafted for it.
I think I know what it is.
What is it?
I'm not vascular at all, really, especially when I'm in shape.
So when you're slightly off, you don't have the vascularity.
So I think and that sounds like a really bad excuse, isn't it? What I mean is like someone like let's say Josh as an example. I've seen Josh winning shows looking 6 weeks out because he's so vascular and he's so big.
Yeah.
And but if he had none of that vascularity, he would just look soft. And I think that it gives you that impression of condition when you're not actually in shape. And I think that's why like someone like Flex Lewis, who's not overly vascular, he has to just be crisp, and because he's always crisp, he always looks incredible, and I have to be that kind of crisp, otherwise I just don't look good, because I'm either in shape or I'm not. So like someone like Kuklo, he's phenomenal, but sometimes he can be a bit off, but his vascularity makes him look harder than he actually is. And I don't mean that negatively, it's impressive. But I do think having vascularity in certain places, if somebody comes out and they're a little bit soft, but their legs are crawling in veins, everyone's like, he's shredded out of his mind. Yeah. Because all the veins are everywhere. And it's like, I don't have any of that. I don't have that dry hardness that a lot of these guys have. But when I'm in shape, I do look pretty good. And it is a balance, and I'm trying to figure out. And I did each look was very different. Like Indy, I was probably the biggest I was, and my legs looked really full and separated in Indy. That really. But I was a little bit smooth from the front, but from the back I was really dry. Yeah. It's really weird. Again, I don't know what it is, but it's the travel, being tired, I'm not sure. But it's, interesting.
Is it frustrating, because you've said before as well, sometimes you just need to pull back to actually look better. Is it frustrating a little bit that you can't just go, okay, I'm not in good enough shape, I'm just going to push and push and push until I'm in shape? Because a lot of guys can do that, but you seem like you can't.
That's exactly what happens every time.
Yeah,
and I'm behind because my body's not responding, so I push myself into the ground. This is why it does frustrate me when people say that I'm lazy. I've heard that quite a lot, or I'm lazy, cheats and stuff. None of that's true. My body's just a dick and just does what it wants. It's like it seems to be its happiest when it's being fed and my training's good.
Yeah.
And there's like a little window where it responds really well, and I have to keep the prep within there. Every time I kind of move out there, like I push too hard or I don't push hard enough, nothing happens, or I get worse. So there's a very fine line.
For sure.
So I think, and that's what working more and more with Chris. He knows where that is, because this last prep when I was 6 weeks out was the biggest and best I've looked 6 weeks out ever. So and it was again easy as pie, this prep.
So there's part 1 of my 2-part interview with Luke Sandoe, IFBB Pro and 3rd place finisher in the 2019 Arnold Classic. Now let me know what you think in the comments below of this interview, and let me know if you're excited for part 2 and you're enjoying these interviews, because if you guys are, I want to hear about it and I want to know what you guys think. Also, if you like this content and you're not subscribed yet, because I think it's about 75% of people that watch my videos are not subscribed yet. So Make sure you smash the thumbs up button if you did like it, and subscribe and hit that notification bell button. That way you'll be notified of every video that goes up for myself, Xavier Wills, and Desktop Bodybuilding, which includes part 2 of my 2-part interview with Luke Sandoe. We might have another video going up after that pretty soon after as well from Luke Sandoe too, so don't miss out on that. So make sure you do subscribe. Anyway guys, thank you so much for all the love I've been getting in the comments on Instagram, Facebook, and all that sort of stuff. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So for Xavier Wills and Desktop Bodybuilding, we are.